everyone. I'm Carl Bierock. Welcome back to the Jaguar Football Podcast. Here we are, the middle of May, and before you know it, school will be out for everybody. And now we'll start thinking about, it's time to go camping. And then before you know it, the regular season arrives. And with us today, as always, is Coach Nicholas Bear from Seckman High School. Coach Bear, so good to see you. A lot going on, I imagine, through the hallways of Seckman, and then even behind the scenes with multiple registrations and all sorts of things going on in Seckman football.
Yeah, minus the actual fall season, the 10 weeks of games, this is probably the second busiest time of the year. Right as we start building up towards the summer, communicating out all of our off-season schedule, making sure everything's ready. All the boys are on the same page. All my coaches know their responsibilities and what I need them to do. So I feel like we're being torn in about 10, 15, 20 different directions, but then eventually it all comes together, and before you know it, we'll be running out the tunnel on a Friday night. So, it's fun, exciting. I'm sure for me, there's 1 week left of school. I don't really feel that. I'm sure the kids do. I'm sure a lot of the teachers, too, that won't be back in the building for about 2.5 months, they're feeling it. For me, we'll just roll right into what we're doing, so it's just kind of how it is around here.
Yeah, I imagine it just stays busy constantly. And so wanted to give you the floor for some updates that are going on. I mean, we have multiple registrations, not only for the high school program, but the junior Jags, and then a camp later on this summer for, we'll say like middle school, elementary.
Yeah.
Just a lot going on.
Yeah, high school parents, 185 high school players and one of me. So, if there are certain clerical duties, things we need to get done before the season can start and before your son can put on some shoulder pads. So if you have a high school student, there's 2 things I need you to do. Number one, sign into Privet, right? That's where we upload our physical and make sure your son is medically cleared to play. It's kind of one of those things. If you are a new parent, incoming freshman, or your son is just now, your player is just now joining us sophomore, junior year, you'll have to create an account, right? Upload that physical and make sure you sign up for the 2025-2026 football team. If you have a returning player, and these are the folks that think they don't, they're done, they don't really have to do anything, I still need you to log back into that Privet account. Last year it was the 2024-2025 team. Now this year, we got to click on 2025, 2026. And then some of us will have to renew our physicals. Some of us won't. So, that's kind of a little bit of confusion because people think, well, I'm already done. Well, no, I need you to go in there, make a couple clicks, and then I can start seeing what's going on. So, right now we're about 30% completion on that. Along with that, the high school athletes, we're doing our donation structure. We're about 25-30% of that too, where we ask each player to donate at least $80 to our booster club. That's going to help us cover the pregame meals and the t-shirts and the camps that we provide throughout the summer. So those 2 things, if we could take care of those sooner than later, going to make Coach Bear's life a lot easier. All right, so definitely
we want that, right? You have enough on your plate when it comes time to take the field and practice and everything. So we want to make this easy. And of course, we'll put the links to all the registrations in the description of this. But
yeah, it's just all part of it, Carl. I'll keep throwing out the information and it really one of those things where you can get it done in about 3 or 4 minutes. And I know everybody's busy. Most of the time you're at work when you get my email. So I'll keep pushing it out, a couple clicks and you can have it done. Youth. In our community, we've talked about all the opportunities we've been providing. We have our fall tackle registration, which is already up 60%, 65%, I believe, from this time last year, which is huge, right? I think this time last year we were at like 30-something people signed up. We're already at 70. All right. Last year, I think we ended up with about 180 in our youth league. So, we've already kind of got some momentum. So if you're out there, go ahead and get signed up. We have payment options. Payment plan option to kind of break it up into 2 payments. We got the option to sign up to receive more or extra raffle tickets to help ease the burden of those costs. Those raffle tickets are in, so we're ready to disperse those and kind of start helping players raise some scholarship money to play junior Jaguar football. We have our youth camp, okay, and this is kind of, normally we've done walk-ups at our youth camps, which we will this year too, but we're trying to run as many through the registration as we possibly can on the website. We're about at 60 now. Normally we have about 190, 200 kids at the camp, so long way to go with those registrations. But once again, as we get closer, I believe it's like June 17th, June 18th. The quicker we get signed up, the quicker it is for us to kind of come up with an effective plan for those 2 nights. And so, yeah, lots of things going on and lots of opportunities for football. And, I'm excited to always kind of get the paperwork and the clerical stuff out of the way and, get out the ball bag and start getting it done.
Well, we look forward to it. And of course, more information about the camps and registration as we go through and get closer to it. But I mean, the year's flown by. And it just seems like each and every year it gets faster and faster. And, one of the things that we wanted to talk about today on the podcast is, and it's, we think about the NFL released their schedule last week and they had a big party. Well, we're going to have like a minimized little party here today and talk about the first 4 games on the varsity schedule. And so you start off week 1 at home. It's nice to start off at home against Parkway West. And so for those not familiar with the Parkway West program and the type of offense that they run, I was wondering if you could, tell the Jaguar Nation a little bit more about Parkway West. They may not be familiar with them.
Yeah, this is our one. Technically this is a suburban St. Louis school, but this is our one non-conference game of the year that we actually get to go out, find, and schedule. And we played these guys week 1 last year at their house, and this year we get to kind of open up the season at home, which is always a little bit nicer. Told the boys too. We went over our whole summer schedule. August 29th, Parkway West is going to be on that field. We'll have a brand new scoreboard. There'll be about 2,000 people in the stands. Are we ready or not? That week 1 always has that extra anticipation. Will we, won't we, can we, can't we? All these questions can finally start getting answered. And, it's always fun to look forward to, that's for sure. Parkway West, they're returning their quarterback. He's a senior. He's kind of going to all the camps, and he's 6'2", about 200 pounds. They're kind of floating him out there, getting a lot of buzz. He had a lot of buzz going into last year. He's going to have some buzz again going into this year. And he's got an arm. He's got a cannon. So, one thing Parkway West likes to do, especially to eliminate our pass rush, like we've talked about in the past, is get that ball out quick, in their passing game. And, it's going to kind of come down to, we're going to have a new look defensive backfield this year. And it's kind of going to come down to, can we limit that? Can we limit the deep ball, force them to throw underneath? And then make our tackles in space. So, really exciting matchup week 1. It really forces us to, really work our pass defense, our spread stuff, for quote unquote Jackson, when we eventually get there. So, it's an exciting non-conference opponent to have, and it really helps us kind of prepare throughout the season for sure.
It's interesting because if I understand correctly, this is like our last year playing, I would say, the familiar teams. We're moving up, and I want to look, don't want to simply look past this current year, but
right.
This is almost like the farewell tour of our division.
Yeah, for a lot of our common orange opponents, this is kind of going to be one of those times where, people have become accustomed to watching us play Melville and Oakville and Parkway South and Northwest. Those are teams that, for the near future won't be on our schedule, and it's kind of be one of those, like you said, farewell tours. And we've had the privilege of getting the upper hand on these guys the last 4 years. And we want to try to do it again. And we did not re-up Parkway West for our non-conference either. I believe we've added North Point, school out west, kind of St. Charles type area, Wentzville area. So this will be the last time we play Parkway West for a while too. So.
And Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, but the schedule is determined years and in years in advance for the most part, about at least where you'll play the majority of your games. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the current schedule that we're playing now, I mean, it was already in the works when Cole Rubel was taking snaps, So it's, it's just, people kind of want to know, well, why is it going this way? Well, you got to have really a 3-4 year plan in place. When you look at next year's schedule, we were working pretty much on that and all that kind of all the nonsense that went on with that last season and the year before that. So it's really something that's always being worked out in advance, 2 and 3 years ahead. So, you never really, you kind of try to plan out where your program is going to be, how you think you'll be able to do, and then kind of build your opponents off of that.
Makes sense. And week 2 is always a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, it seemed odd. We had Fox 2 years in a row at home. This year,
Yeah.
we go down 141 and pay a little visit to them.
Yeah, we 2 back-to-back home games. That was nice little privilege for the last 2 senior classes. This senior class going to have to get it done at Fox, and it's one of those familiar opponents. These guys are not going anywhere on our schedule, right? If they did, then we'd have some real problems with what's actually going on. Hey, a lot's been said about the 15-year streak they had over us. We've been lucky enough, fortunate enough to get them the last 4 times. I know eventually in the 16 years that I have left, they're gonna beat us at some point. I just hope it's not this year. And I probably say that every year. But it's one of those games. It's a familiar opponent. They're always going to be a very similar type athletes to us. It's always going to be a very physical game. Neither one of us are really going to be able to outspeed the other. We're becoming very familiar with each other's offenses, and I would assume, Fox continues to stick with the option. How that option looks, I really don't know. Last year they went back to split veer, which they had some success with, in 2018, 2019, previous years. They've done it from the flex bone formation, so the wing backs, and you see more of a motion type. They've done it from the I formation. There's a lot of different ways to run option and kind of develop their pass game and different things like that. When you're running option offense, who's your quarterback? Last year they started out with a senior. Throughout the season they moved to their junior, Chandler Price, I believe, and maybe he steps up as a senior and kind of takes it over. Their JV quarterback was also pretty slick. So it's kind of one of those things, when you're running the option, and I know Coach Tinker knows this too, you got to start with the quarterback. So, we'll kind of see. And we've had a pretty solid defensive plan the last couple of years. And, we expect to continually adjust that plan. You keep doing the same thing over and over again, people catch on to that, especially good coaching staff. So, it's kind of one of those games. I don't hold my breath until it's over. I don't care if we're up 21, up a touchdown, things like that. This game could go either way every season. And, obviously rooting for Fox the other 9 weeks of the year, just not this one.
Yeah. And for maybe the casual fan or maybe someone that doesn't have a son in the program,
mm-hmm.
This is like the game that, the whole community, it's a district.
Yeah, this is
this
is rivalry weekend, right? This is
Yeah.
Michigan, Ohio State. This is maybe not quite the people, what I'm saying, but if you want to draw some parallels to what happens in the college game, it's Georgia Tech, right? It's Mizzou, Arkansas, what they're trying to do with the border battle there. So, rivalries always just make things a little bit more different. The emotion just a little bit higher, and it's kind of one of those things. We have a lot of respect for Fox and their team. We just no longer fear them, like we may have had in the past. So it's always fun and exciting, and then it's even better when you get up on top of them.
No, we certainly look forward to that game. It's always a good time, and it's interesting that we go from them. Then we have Northwest coming
Mm-hmm.
back to Seckman, to the Valley. Northwest team that's, by all indications, a team on the rise, made the playoffs last year. They're improving. I wanted to get your thoughts on week 3.
Yeah, you know what? Farewell tour kind of starts here with Northwest. It's kind of trivia question. Which team has Seckman played the most in its 26-year history? The Northwest Lions. I think it's something like 23 out of the 26 seasons. So it's really kind of bizarre that this is going to be the last time for the foreseeable future. Really hoping the coaches at Northwest want to get on our non-conference schedule here in a couple years. Jefferson County Class 6 school, it really only makes sense, Carl. You know what I'm saying? So a little bummed that they decided to kind of drop us last minute off the next schedule, but excited to still get the opportunity to play them. Last year we were at their house. This is going to be a home game for us. Our junior Jaguar night, where we got all of our youth out there flying around and doing our thing, and it's going to be a great opportunity to kind of showcase Jefferson County football 2 weeks in a row. So Class 6 Jeffco football. There's only 3 of us, so. I believe I don't know exactly. I don't know if Northwest and Fox play this year, but certainly some frustration for me that this will be the last time we play them in a while. But at the same time, it's going to be a good matchup. They'll have a quarterback. Was a sophomore this year, very solid wrestler. His name, kind of escapes me right now, but he'll be a junior. A couple of their linemen returning, and always a fun matchup.
And for the folks watching, when we get into the season, you'll be breaking down game tape and kind of showing what we're looking at. So today is just kind of talking about the schedule and who we're facing over the course of the first 4 weeks of the season. And so we look forward to Northwest. Again, they're a program on the rise that made the playoffs, and then we round out week 4 against Melville. We have another home game, so we're fortunate to go back to back at home, and our first 3 of 4 games are at the Valley.
Yeah, I kind of getting that 2022 feeling, right? Where how many games we played, like 8 home games that year. So yeah, it's fun to kind of start the season, at home and in the comfort of the Valley. But I mean, we'll pay for that the second half of the season, and Melville, another conference opponent. This is an Orange Conference opponent, one that will play them this year. And then once again, who knows if we'll see him again. So kind of that farewell tour with Coach Heineman. I know, they definitely have had their struggles over the last couple of years, but, their JV team was improved last year. They had a couple younger athletes. They always have a few guys that do really well on the track. So, we expect them to come with a good game plan and be ready to battle it out that Friday night for sure.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but Melville, they had a lot of success against us early as a number of years, and we were able to be fortunate enough to kind of reverse that trend.
Yeah, I don't quite have the numbers pulled up, but they did get us in 2019. That was my first season. They had Mitchell Waters at tackle. He's actually played he went to Mizzou, and I think he just graduated last year as a senior. It's kind of always nice when you're running the jet offense to have a humongous offensive tackle to get you the edge. Like I said, we've been fortunate to kind of get the better side of them the last 4 or 5 times, and hopefully make that happen again this year.
Well, we will cover the remaining schedule on the next podcast. So, Coach, we appreciate you getting your thoughts on the first 4. Wanted to shift gears a little bit. This doesn't apply to anyone here in Missouri, but there was an interesting article I found out of Texas, and it's really incorporating a lot of technology into the game of football. I know they're doing it at multiple levels, probably in the college and the pros. I mean, they're putting chips in the football to get those next generation stats. But do you see this type of information, allowing tech to help safety, communications, just overall health of the players? Do you see that accelerating here in Missouri at all?
I'm sure it will. We've talked a few times about, some of the technology and the sideline replay, that we are able to do with our drone and sideline footage. Last year, I believe, was college football's first time with the microphones in the helmet, and the replay on the sideline. NFL's been doing it for a while, and certainly interesting to see that this is, if it was going to make it to any state, Texas makes the most sense. It's the home of college, high school football, and, it's a big time deal there. And, will it ever come to Missouri? It probably will. We're usually a few years behind anyway. And, for us, it kind of just becomes that balance of, well, how much is too much? How much do you really need to be communicating? And where's the line between just letting the boys play the game, right? I'm sure, if you're out there with any youth baseball tournaments like I am, you got the coaches, they got the watches, they're hitting the pitch to the catcher and the catcher's calling it, or, they got the microphone and they're really calling a Major League Baseball game and it's 12U baseball, right? I mean, give me a break. Because at some point these catchers, they got to learn how to call a game, right? When they get to the high school level, when they get to playing, they got to learn how to call a game at some point. How's a kid ever going to learn if he's being told what to do all the time? I'm sure, for some offensive coordinators out there, it'd be great to be in the earpiece. Hey, we get the set, we see the formation. Hey, we're throwing it to the X. Hey, take a 2-step drop, throw it to your Z. But then what about the player, right? I mean, I've told you before, Carl, I'm not really interested in showing people how smart I am. I'm more worried about trying to show people how tough my kids are. And that's kind of, that fine line, I guess. I mean, they are using it at the college level. And if you're a college kid or a high school kid wanting to play, let's say, quarterback at the college level, this definitely is something you'll want to do. But at the same time, I would think as a college coach, you'd want a kid a little bit more well-versed and didn't have to have his hand held the whole time through this, So I don't know. Like I said, yeah. I got enough problem with 12U baseball coaches. So
well,
not my son's 12U baseball coaches, but all the others that I've been watching on all my lovely weekends. Let the kids play.
I was in
let them play the game.
Illinois,
let them learn the game, and it's kind of the same way with football. I mean, if we're constantly talking to them, when do they ever have to think? We're going a little bit deeper now, but I mean, it's the same thing with schoolwork. I mean, AI, all this. When do these kids ever have to think? Let's make them think. Let's make them problem solve. If my quarterback can't look at a defense, split it down the middle, and see 6 on one side, 5 on the other, and know he's got to throw it to the side with 5 guys on it, I think there's a deeper issue, right? So, I'm sure if you ask my offensive coordinator, he'd say, hell yeah, you need to get that headphone system bought for me tomorrow if Missouri made it legal. But, the old school kind of in me, was a little hesitant towards this stuff, but also, hey, adapt or die, and we'd probably be right there with everybody else.
Yeah, it's just amazing to watch the technology evolve. For you mentioned baseball. I mean, everybody's on Game Changer, and then the article also talks about how it could maybe help prevent sign stealing. I know in baseball, that seems to be a big. But does it happen in football? I'm curious about that.
That's a great question. I don't know. We kind of do it the old-fashioned way. We run the play into the huddle. Are there teams that kind of have different signals and things like that? Yeah, they do that too. So I'm sure, we don't have anybody up in the stands doing it, but I'm sure down in Texas, if you're signaling your plays, then you can bet the opposing team's got 2 or 3 guys on the payroll watching you. So, the money's a little different down there. So when the money gets different, the pressure to win gets a little higher. I don't feel that kind of pressure. But, hey, teams could always do it the old-fashioned way by running it in with your player and calling it in the huddle too. So, you've probably seen that football commercial. I think it's the with the deaf players that have the coach calls it in and it shows up on their little visor.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild too. I mean, hell, who knows? Maybe it is coming.
It's just I think about like the helmet over my shoulder here, the technology involved with safety there, and then just you mentioned the drone and videotape and all these great pieces of technology at this disposal. And then this article again goes into like stealing signs. I'm like, I'm a casual fan. I don't see it, but
I don't hear nobody banging on trash cans like the Houston Astros or nothing. So
yeah. But no, appreciate your thoughts on that. Thought it was a topical story, just talking about the evolution of technology in football, and perhaps we'll see it here in Missouri sooner than later. And then one last scoping out the internet here, saw a great tweet talking about what's been going on around the Seckman campus as far as athletics and just investment in the infrastructure. I mean, we've been talking about the new scoreboard going up. Basketball got one this season. Wanted to, talk to you about that and what you're seeing in the time as a player and now as a coach, just the evolution of the athletics at Seckman.
Right. Yeah. That's our Seckman Athletics Twitter account ran by our athletic director, Tracy Schmidt. He's been here for 3 years. He's moving on to bigger and better things. He's moving up on top of the hill, uh, as we say at central office, and he's going to be a new chief financial officer of the district, which I think is a fantastic role for him. He came in 3 years ago. Our athletics were kind of stale. Our building and facilities were aging, and he's done a lot to kind of move us forward, and just kind of look. And I've told people all the time, ain't nobody coming to save us. Nobody's going to do this stuff for us. The only way we move Seckman forward is if we are the ones that physically do it. And that was kind of the mindset that Tracy had when he came in here. Now, if you're doing all these things and you're trying to move mountains and make things happen, do you rub a few folks the wrong way because you're changing the way things have been done in the past? Of course. But I respect Tracy for staying the course, and getting these things done, because there are certainly, Carl, some people in our community that aren't that interested in going forward. It's a bizarre situation. Oh, well, this is how we've always done it. Okay, well, get to the back of the bus, because we're going forward with or without you. And as far as the Jaguar Football Booster Club and our taking over the youth program and all the different exciting things that are happening, not just in our football program but at the school. If you're not getting on board, if you're not part of the movement that's taking us forward, get off at the previous exit, and the rest of us will go on without you, because I know and I've seen firsthand the work that Tracy has put in to get these things done. And I'm hoping that my new boss, Mr. Thurstrup from McClure, is just as motivated and just as interested in improving the quality of Seckman athletics and the overall aesthetics of our building. So it's really exciting. And as bummed as I am to see Tracy leave, I am excited to kind of see what he's going to be able to do for us at a district level, not just for the Seckman side. Now if Fox feels that things are getting a little stale, now he's here working for you too. So it's really exciting for the district as a whole.
I agree, because if you travel to any of the away games, you go through like the Parkway district. I think about like Marquette, Parkway South. I mean, those facilities, they put some significant investment into it, and it's good to see something that we're proud of. If you think about like the programs that we have at Seckman, if is like a corporation, and the results. There'd be tons of money being reinvested back in there. So it's just good to see.
It's just one of those things, Carl, too, where, we don't have to pay for the sins of a person from 15 years ago. It's over, right? We got, anybody that was around then is gone, right? We have all these new people, all new trustworthy people, a lot of young folks that want to go forward. So it's kind of, we're doing a lot of things to hopefully rebuild the trust. And now it just kind of comes to the community to trust that the right things are happening, and we're doing the right things for students and athletes in our community. And, it really is just time to move on, or we will get left behind. I mean, it's something I'm pretty passionate about, and I've got 16 years. I'm not interested in staying here or going here. We're going here, and it's just time to get on board. These are our kids. This is our school. That's where we decide to live. Let's elevate it.
Well, certainly, with the booster club, if you don't have a child or a boy in the program, you can make donations, and we'll slowly but surely make a lot of that progress that you're talking about. So I appreciate you weighing in on this tweet. I really liked it. I mean,
and
you drive by campus, you see the changes. It's not anything that is behind a curtain. I mean, it's right in front of you.
Right, and August 1st, or when you turn the corner into that stadium, you're going to see, a brand new 13 by 26 digital scoreboard. That we finalized the contracts. We finalized it all. It was approved by the board 3 weeks ago. I mean, it's going to be an amazing asset for our community and our school and our kids. A great way to promote our kids and also give them real hands-on life experience with doing these sorts of things. And I'm just excited. We'll probably have a big ribbon cutting ceremony at our blue and gold game this year, and try to get out all of our big sponsors that believed in it from the start. And, this was something that, without the work of a parent, without the work of the community, without the work of our Booster Club board president, Kelly Kuby, would not have happened. All right. People are what are going to move us forward. And it's really exciting. that she was motivated enough to really feel this and put the work in. And I'm excited to see this come to fruition for, not only our football team, all right, our band members, our soccer teams, our lacrosse team, our youth leagues, our hell, whoever else is out there. All right. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. It's going to be a really neat thing, and just does not happen without the work of the people involved.
I'm excited that we get to show off a year-old field, brand new scoreboard for week one. So that's exciting, and a new sound system and everything. So it's going to be a great time at the Valley. We look forward to week one. Also, want to remind everybody that we have our social media channels, Facebook. We also have these podcasts in HD on YouTube if you want to check it out that way. And also, you can find our podcast on our streaming sponsor, Livestream STL. So please take a moment, like, subscribe, pass this, share this content on. And of course, as we get closer to the season, we'll have more information about registrations, ongoing information. So we'll keep you informed. And Coach, these podcasts seem to always go by so quickly. Here we are, 31 minutes into the podcast, and wanted to get your final thoughts as we round out the month of May.
Hey, rounding out the month of May, the end of the school year, right? Final grades will be posted this week for your athlete, and hopefully they'll be eligible to participate in the fall. You know, it's kind of one of those things, Carl. Somebody said, well, it doesn't really feel like Coach Bear cares about grades anymore. I remember when he used to do grade checks, this, that, the other, and if someone doesn't think I still believe in grades, why don't they should ask the three Bear boys at home. Hell hath no fury like a B on a test at my house, right? I mean, yes, grades are extremely important, and it's kind of one of those things where, 4 or 5 years ago, I was dissecting every grade, every assignment, every test that was taken, doing, sometimes buy and try weekly grade checks. And it's just kind of one of those things where I was caring a lot more than the guys with the grades. And, we've made, quite honestly, obsolete is not the right word. We have just pulled back a lot on the expectations of students, as far as you now have the ability to turn in an assignment whenever you want, turn in your late work, right? You now have the ability to retake a test, right? You could fail a test and then retake it, depending on the teacher, sometimes multiple times. And, kind of, I would say 3 years ago was kind of the last time I was really starting to hammer it. And, I tell you, hey, buddy, you got 4 Fs. Well, yeah, I'm going to retake this test, and I've already turned this assignment in. I can't tell you how many times I had that conversation, right? I've got a lot of different things pulling me in other directions, a lot of stress. I was stressing in February on somebody's grades when they weren't going to stress till the second to last week of May. So it's kind of, where could I point myself in other directions, right? And that's kind of where, grades are still important. And, if a parent reaches out to me, hey, can you talk to, my son about, their grades and the work that they're doing, I'm more than happy to sit down and talk to a kid. I just don't do as much of the searching through the grade book, finding guys with 2 Fs and hunting down their assignments, writing down the assignments that they owe, making sure we all have Infinite Campus. I hope grades are something that all parents are checking. Not only, can they retake tests and turn assignments in late? All right, what else can they do? They also have an hour and a half study hall, right? Every other day during ACLAP. My son, I'm not going to talk about him, but that's an opportunity for all your homework. You can meet with any teacher that you want. And, it's kind of one of those things where it's got to end up being a priority. It kind of comes down to these last 2 weeks every year, pulling a few guys across the finish line. And, we're still lifting weights. We're still working in weights. And I have a kid come in and say, Coach, I need to go see so-and-so during weightlifting because no, you're not. Well, I got to we're lifting weights. This is what we're doing now. You've got an opportunity in ACLAT. Well, what do you got going on, tonight? Oh, well, nothing? Okay, well, that's a great opportunity to get it done. So, It's just kind of one of those things where grades are important. You got to have them for eligibility, but the responsibility falls to the players at some point. I'm here to guide them, and that's just kind of my thoughts on grades, Carl. I just, like I said, anybody wants to really question that, there's 3 Bear boys at home that you can ask them how I feel about grades and the expectations that I have, for my family and my kids. So, they are important, and it just takes a village to keep these kids motivated.
Yeah, well, you even talk about it, and this could be a revisit for another podcast, but just the accountability factor.
Mm-hmm.
You expect and have expectations of those players on the field. They need to take care of business off the field in order to get on the field. So it seems like it's just a vicious circle here. But
Yeah.
from just getting to know you through the podcast and the program, you're big on accountability, and it sounds like you're putting that on those players to take control of what they can control. And
Yeah.
that's
Accountability and opportunity. That's what it's all about.
well, Coach. I know we're at time. I appreciate your thoughts, and certainly, best of luck as you round out the school year. And certainly, the invitation's always wide open. So whenever you want to, crank up the podcast, we're here for you. But I guess the next step after lifting weights is you start the field work, correct? That's
Yeah.
coming
I
up.
mean, Tuesday, I know Monday's Memorial Day. Next Tuesday, there's going to be balls in the air on the turf, and we're in it. So, exciting times.
Wonderful. Well, we can't wait. And Coach, again, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Carl.
All right. Thank you.